Right, welcome everyone to tonight's Planning Application Committee, 13th of January here at the Civic. I'd like to welcome everyone at the Civic and those observing the meeting on Microsoft Teams. Fire alarm procedure, there are no fire drills expected this evening, so in the event of an alarm sounding, please quickly make your way out of the building. There are 3 exits from this room, which members can use to vacate the premises. Please switch mobile phones onto silent or switch them off. Take any calls outside the meeting room. Not leave any possessions unaccompanied and or report any unaccompanied possessions. Remember to take any possessions with you when the meeting has concluded or if you leave the meeting. This meeting may be subject to filming or audio recording by others in accordance with the Council's filming protocol. Anyone who remains in the meeting following this announcement have deemed to have consented to allow their image to be recorded and broadcast. Move on to the agenda for tonight. Item 1, apologies for absence. Are there any apologies for absence?
There are, Chair. Councillor Bell has been substituted by Councillor Ellis. Councillor Jackson has been substituted by Councillor Coxhead and Councillor Abbs.
Are there any other apologies from the floor? No. Thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? Councillor Tempest Mitchell.
Thank you, Chair. 2 of the applications are on my ward, so 2021-0489/RS and 2024-0254/FU.
Yeah. Councillor Hammersley.
Thank you, Chair. Agenda item 7, application 2024-0393. I'm the ward councillor, Town Centre.
Thank you. Are there any other declarations? No. Thank you. Move on to agenda item 3, minutes of the meeting held on the 25th of November 2024. I have a proposer and a seconder. Hammersley. Answer. We accept these as true record. Show of hands. Thank you. Move on to agenda item 4, which is the planning application reference 2024-0589 new shop front and extract ventilation flue to the rear elevation 7 Nottingham Road. I invite the officer to present the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. This application seeks to add a new shop front to number 147 Nottingham Road, replacing the existing timber display window and recessed entrance doorway with a flush shop front constructed from UPVC. The proposal also includes a provision of a new ventilation flue which would be fixed to the rear elevation of the unit. The host premises is a mid-terrace retail unit situated within the Nottingham Road local centre. Although it is currently vacant, it was last occupied by the Mansfield Balloon Company. This application has been referred to the Planning Committee due to the number of objections received from local residents, raising concerns regarding potential use of the premises as a hot food takeaway. However, it is noted that the submitted floor plans and application form indicate that the premises will be used as a restaurant with public areas, seating area of around 20 square meter, separate kitchen and ancillary facilities. As the premises is an existing retail unit, it falls under Class EA use under the Town and Country Planning Use Classes Order 1978 as amended use class order. Planning permission is not required for the change of use of a Class EA retail unit to a restaurant under Class EB of the use class order. As such, this application relates solely to the proposed new shopfront and extractor flue and not the change of use of the premises to a restaurant. So this is the proposed plans for the shopfront. In terms of the impacts on visual amenity, this application would introduce new display windows and entrance door, providing a flush shopfront which would respect the scale and proportions of the building and its surroundings. No external shutters are proposed, and the development would not impact on access to the upper floors of the building. It would therefore accord with policy P8 of the local plan in this regard. It is acknowledged that the proposed extractor flue would be a substantial structure. However, it would be fixed to the rear of the building and sit alongside 3 existing flues, serving the adjacent takeaways. As such, this element of the scheme would not adversely impact on the character and appearance of the host building or the surrounding streetscape. It too would therefore accord with policies P2 and P8 of the local plan, amongst other things, seek to ensure that development is well integrated into the surrounding environment. In terms of the impacts on residential amenity, the proposed new shopfront at ground floor level would not directly impact on the existing upper floor flats within the local center or houses to the rear of the site. Detailed technical specifications of the proposed extractor system have been submitted with this application. The environmental health team is satisfied that the system would provide the necessary controls to ensure that it is adequately restricts cooking smells, odors, and is not noisy. Therefore, subject to a condition requiring the extractor system being constructed in accordance with the submitted specifications, this element of the scheme also would not adversely impact on the living conditions of nearby residents. As such, it would accord with policy P7 of the local plan, which seeks to ensure that new development protects the amenities of existing and proposed residents. The environmental health team has requested that additional conditions are imposed, restricting construction hours and the submission of a construction environmental management plan to control noise, dust, and vibrations associated with the construction process. Given that the application is only for a new shopfront and extractor system, it is not considered that the construction environmental management plan is necessary. However, to protect the amenities of nearby occupiers during the construction phase, a condition restricting working hours is reasonable and is recommended to be imposed. Overall, this application relates to a new shopfront and ventilation system only. These works would preserve the character and the appearance of the host premises and its surroundings, and subject to conditions, would not have a detrimental impact on the amenities of nearby residents. Therefore, the proposal would accord with P2, P7, and P8, and planning permission is therefore recommended.
Thank you for your report. There are no speakers on this application. Do members have any questions of the officer? No? I have a proposer and seconder. Councillor Hammersley, Councillor Stevenson. In debate mode, anyone wish to comment? No? We go to a vote, show of hands then. All those in favour of approval, show. Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you, that's unanimous. So, to recap, plan application reference 2024-0589 full new shopfront and extract ventilation flue to the rear elevation of 147 Nottingham Road, been granted planning permission. Yep. I shall move on to agenda item 5, page 29 to 74. Planning application 2021 0489 RES. Application for reserve matters approval. The development of phase 2 plots 9A, 9B, 10, 12A to deliver 484 number dwellings comprising appearance in landscaping, layout and the scale on plan application 2010-0089 ST. Outline plan application including the reserved matters of access for the development of 169.3 hectares of land, employment, commercial, residential, retail, healthcare, community, educational and leisure uses, including the provision of a new primary school, location centre, local centre, community park, landscaping, habitat creation, infrastructure including roads, drainage and services. Phase 2 plots 9A, B, 9B, 10, 12A, Lyndhurst Development Land, Mansfield. I invite the officer to make a report, please.
Thank you, Chair. This is a planning application, reserve matters for phase 2, Lyndhurst, SUE, Berry Hill, SUE. The application, before I go into detail, there are a number of updates to give you, and if I can run through these first. Updated information. There is a correction to be made in relation to section 5 of your report. I've referred to a play area and leap being provided. That is incorrect. There is no leap local equipped area of play to be included within this application site. As a consequence, condition number 27, which pertains to a leap to be provided, is now to be proposed deleted. Relation to a further condition, condition 25, which relates to lighting, is also now under agreement with the applicant to be deleted. Condition 8, first sentence to be reworded to no dwelling hereby permitted shall be first occupied until pedestrian visibility displays of 2 meters by 2 meters are provided to each side of vehicle access to that particular dwelling. 2 further conditions are proposed. One relating to the removal of permitted development rights for extensions to dwellings that relates to classes A, B and C of permitted development, so extensions and roof conversions and roof alterations. That takes account of the density and the scale of this development. And a further condition proposed removes permitted development rights to erect fences, walls or gates or other means of enclosures. That's in the interest of the good planning of the development. We also have some updates in terms of consultation responses. The Environment Agency have commented no further comments to make on final submission plans. Nottinghamshire Police, no further comment. Nottinghamshire County Council, Local Flood Authority, no further comment. Environmental Health, no further comment to make. Mansfield Ecologists, no further comment to make. Mansfield Planning Policy, no further comments. Turning to the application itself, this is an application for 484 dwellings to include 170 affordable housing units. The application is the first of the residential units on phase 2 of Lyndhurst. This relates to the eastern side of the Sustainable Urban Extension Berry Hill and covers the full housing allocation in this area. Adopted Mansfield policy allocated this site under the local plan 2013, 2030 to 2033, under outline consent 2010 0089 ST with an accompanying section 106 agreement. Phase 1 has been largely built out. Phase 2, you may recall you considered the first applications for the local centre in November. This application is the first of the residential units. Vinhurst is divided into two halves, the east and the western side. This covers the east side. Houses on phase 1, the western side of the SUE, are generally family size houses, 3 and 4 bedroomed, with no affordable housing provided on that side of the site. Under the various Section 106 agreements and amendments to the Section 106s, the affordable housing for the full allocation, so that's 1,700 residential units, will be provided within phase 2. As a consequence, we have a significant number of affordable housing to come forward within this scheme. Principle of development is established by virtue of the outline application. In terms of the development itself, we have predominantly 2 and 3 bedroom dwellings proposed. Smaller number, 41 units, which are 4 bedroomed, and a limited number of 1 bedroomed and the 2 bedroom and the 3 bedroom are the predominant number, 3 bedroom being the largest number proposed on this site, which provides smaller family residential accommodation. Development includes 27 different house designs, although only 5 of those are related to the affordable housing. The affordable housing is clumped in specific locations within the site, as you can see from the drawing. So we're towards the northern end, both under the first phase, the phases 9A, 9B, 10, whereas 12, which is on the far side of the school site, separated from this main block, provides again affordable housing on the northern part of the site. The site itself sandwiched between Old Newark Road, Redruth Drive, the spine road to the site, Lyndhurst Way East, and the Mar on the southern side. So this extends across the full width of the SUE on the east side. The houses are a mix of brick and render. As I say, we have variations which total 27 total, but those are limited within two specific ranges. But there is a variety within the site to come forward. Development is elevated above the adjoining roads, so it sits elevated against the Mar in the same way that the phase 1 development does. It's elevated in relation to Adams Way, which it straddles the to the western side, and sits level with Old Newark Road, but separated from it by hedgerow and some planting. The development is split into 4 character areas. Those roughly equate to, you see on the plan, those are different colours equate to those areas. In terms of the layout and in terms of the arrangement and densities within those character areas, there's very little variation. So the character is determined through variations within the house types, rather than differences in terms of street scenes and density levels and spaces between buildings. The site has, on the main block, has a hedgerow which runs horizontally east-west, and that's a protected hedgerow that we have asked for, that we sought the layout to accommodate. The layout is partly predicated on this hedgerow, which we intended to keep it's important, obviously, as a greenfield agricultural, ex-agricultural site, to embed some of those elements within it. Site layout comprises blocks which feed off the Lyndhurst Way East Spine Road. Spine Road is already constructed, and the arrangement is in the same way it is with the phase 1 development. No direct accesses off the Spine Road other than very limited situations. So we have a series of adoptable roads within the site and then shared driveways off those roads. Some of those driveways are extended, so serve a large number of houses. As a consequence, that does have implications for things like bin lorries. And as you will note, there are a significant number of conditions which are highway related conditions. One of the things that we've sought to embed within this application and the recommendation is to forward think implications in terms of where bin lorries, where fire tenders, where lorries, delivery vans how they would operate within this site. As a consequence, we have conditions which unusually require the road specifications for the shared drives to be to a standard that we and the Highway Authority will approve. As a consequence, we should be able to improve the condition, size of those, and make them more tolerable in terms of the amount of traffic that they may well be carrying. In relation to the houses range from a very small number of 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom bungalows. We only have 2 of those, through to 1.5-story, 2-story flats over garages, bogs, a small apartment, an apartment block, ranging then through to 3-story houses, which follow townhouses. Most people would interpret as townhouses. Now those sit along the Spine Road, and there is a block which sits almost opposite the local centre. That gives an entrance point to the development. In relation to landscaping, we've sought to embed strategy of tree planting. Now that has been somewhat limited because this is a tightly built up development. As a consequence, there isn't a great deal of space available to put landscaping, particularly tree planting and street trees in. But we have gone as far as we can with this application and with considerable discussion with the applicant. In terms of parking, we do have a deficit of parking in that, although technically the development does achieve the parking standards, there are garages proposed with this development. Those garages, and these only relate to the 4-bedroom dwellings, are undersized in respect of the county standard. So as a consequence, we've got 25 dwellings, 4-bedroom dwellings, where the garages are included, which would provide the 3rd parking space, but aren't considered by the county council to be of sufficient size to actually accommodate a wide range of cars. So we do have a deficit. We also have a layout which incorporates a significant amount of on-plot frontage parking. Now that, I think, takes account of the limitations of the layout and the density levels which have precluded a lot of available space, additional available space around buildings. As a consequence, 2-bedroom properties are largely served by frontage car parking, which on balance we consider acceptable in this case. The affordable housing scheme breaks down in relation to the Section 106 requirements to 60% social rent and 40% affordable intermediate housing. We don't have a scheme at the present, nor are we aware of the housing provider, but at 170 units, I would anticipate that there would be one coming forward. The scheme is designed to keep a free flow of traffic along Lyndhurst Way East. There's also a bus gate to be included within the scheme. The bus gate will link through to Redruth Drive, Old Newark Road, and there have been some concerns, as you'll see from your committee report from the County Highway Authority, about parking in the road that actually runs up to that bus gate. On balance, we feel that we've now reached a compromise that it can be accepted. We've also built in provision for monitoring, and in the future, if there were to be a large overspill of parking, and on-street parking occurring, for the county council to put traffic management measures in place. Scheme is mix of render and brick, a little bit of cladding. We've put a condition on, although we've had a materials condition submitted, or materials detail submitted, we'd like to give further consideration to that. So we're dealing with that with condition. We have a small area of public open space, which is a site of an existing oak tree, which is considered to be critically important to retain on the site. It's a significant tree, and it will establish some maturity to that part of the estate. In relation to other matters, we have a SUD scheme. We have very much future-proofed this scheme as far as we can. As a consequence, there are a significant number of conditions on this. The scheme is finely balanced at the end of the day, but it will deliver a large amount of housing as expected from the SUE. The SUE is the biggest one to be delivered overall in Mansfield, 1,700 units. So it's an important one to contribute to the housing supply for the district. And on balance, we feel that the application is supportable. So recommendation, subject to the conditions, is to support the application.
Thank you for the report. And we do have a speaker for this application, so I'd like to invite Amy, is it Gilver? The applicant. Ready, Amy, if you'd like to turn your mic on, you've got 4 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for taking the time to be here this evening to discuss this application. My name is Amy Gilliver, and I am the Senior Planning Manager at Bellway Homes East Midlands. This site has been under review by your officers for the past 3 years, during which extensive discussions have taken place alongside County Highways and the Council's Urban Design Officer. The result is a well-developed proposal, and it has received no objections from statutory consultees, of which I fully commend and thank your officers for their time and expertise in getting this application before you tonight. In line with the objectives of the National Planning Policy Framework, we are focused on delivering much-needed new homes. The proposal providing the full allocation of affordable housing required by the local plan. It goes beyond the standard 10% requirement and delivers 35%, equating to 170 affordable homes. This includes a balanced mix of 2, 3 and 4 bedroom homes, as well as some 2-bedroom bungalows. This development, as the last Reserved Matters proposal, will also assist the Council's housing supply position, which is set to increase from 325 to 495 dwellings per annum from September. Connectivity and sustainability are key priorities of this development. Support sustainable transportation options the plan includes the introduction of a bus gate, as well as extensive cycle and footpath connections that will provide excellent access to the surrounding area. Throughout the consultation process with County Highways, it has been acknowledged that there is a possibility of minimal overspill parking in certain scenarios. However, it's important to note that such situations would require all residents to be at home simultaneously, with visitors also present at the same time, a highly unlikely occurrence. Nevertheless, we have been able to provide for 161 visitor spaces within the development. And following close collaboration with the County Highways, a number of conditions have been proposed, and there is no objection from the statutory consultee. Development also features a tree-lined spine road with retained boundary hedges reinforced with additional planting, and a preserved oak tree as a central feature of the development. Finally, this development forms part of a larger initiative in line with the goals of the new National Planning Policy Framework, aimed at providing the much-needed new homes. Thank you very much for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Amy. Members have any questions of Amy? Councillor Coxhead?
You're right. Yeah, just a point on the application proposal. It's got habitat creation, but it don't sort of identify whereabouts on development the habitation or wildlife corridor or whatever's going to be. That's the first question. I wonder whether you could answer that first.
Well, we have an area along the top of the development where we've got swales and retained hedgerow. However, I think the mention in the proposal, the description of development in relation to the outline, there was a specific area for enhancement that was part of the outline overall design. I think one of the officers should be able to clarify that point, and that is where the main biodiversity was proposed. Obviously, within this parcel of development, following the design code and the framework master plan, we were only able to work within the parameters that were approved originally. So we can only, well, I say we only are providing the additional hedgerow, the additional tree planting, kind of a tree-lined footway and cycleway that runs through the development, and the retention of the existing oak tree.
Second question was, it also in your proposal, it's got provision for a new primary school. Where on your
That's outside of the reserve matters application that we're talking about this evening. That outline application, that is for another to bring forward, not included within this reserve matters application.
because many years ago, I think back to 2011, when the Mar route was in sort of forward and came to Mansfield, for the very purpose of a regeneration route to include industrial as well. There was obviously talk that there would be, as houses came on, the provisions for schooling, certainly wildlife, which I'm very interested in. And my final concern was when we mentioned vehicles. I'd just like to point out that most visitors come to my house when me and my wife are in, not out.
Members have any further questions about me? Councillor Tempest Mitchell?
Chair, thank you for your presentation. I've got a few questions. Will there be any solar power on any of these houses?
Yes.
Okay.
Of them, I believe, under the new building regs.
Thank you. In relation to the school, 400,000.
84.
probably produce about that many children. I'm sure there's a formula that can work out. I asked the officer as well, but are you putting money from the 106 into the primary school that was promised?
I think under our, I'd have to double check, but I think under our legal obligation with the original landowner, we're exempt from the section 106 as we're providing 170 affordable housing on the scheme.
Again, I'll check with the officers, but thank you. On there was a really nice picture of, I think it's the land where the oak tree is. Is that going to be, is that going to have a management company, and who will pay for the upkeep of that land?
It would be a residence management company. So it would be whoever lives on the development makes a contribution to the management company, and it's maintained that way. There's a managing agent, everybody contributes to it, and that's how the development is maintained.
Sorry, but I'm just
No,
going through a tick
okay.
list. So I think it will, what you mean is Bellway will, what the better word, sell the lease of that land to a management company. Let's just say it could be, and it may not be, but Meadfleet or somebody like Meadfleet. They will charge a leasehold charge for that, a leasehold charge for that land. Currently, there are no regulations for. Have you considered giving that land management to the residents themselves so they can decide who manages it, who cuts the grass, and how much it costs them?
I think under the once it's transferred to the manager, the residents, I think they have the option annually to seek to change the managing agent, whoever it is that does that. I personally don't know the intricacies of a management company, so I can't, hand on heart, say that that's what happened, but I believe that they have the option.
No play area with possibly 400 kids. Why not?
Sorry, could you? I didn't get the.
There's no play area plan, so the leap is in the original plans and has been taken away. It's quite a large estate. No leap, no trim trail, play area. Where are the kids going to play?
Just for clarification, there wasn't any leap ever shown on the plans. It was including the report of the error of the case officer, which I think she explained at the beginning of the meeting. As part of the outline, there was a rather extensive open space area, and that contained all of the play equipment, muggers, leaps, biodiversity. It's an extensive area of open space, and that's what was put forward under the outline and what was approved on the outline and the framework master plan.
Any further questions from any councillors? Councillor Alice?
Sorry. I've just got a concern about the parking. I know that you've got the formula and it's tight. I have a problem in my area with work vans. So not only has everybody got a car each, there's 2 cars per household. There's also a work van that needs to be parked somewhere. And then this causes to be parking on pavements, which means that people with disabilities on disability scooters can't get round. And I have a lot of complaints with that. So I have a concern with the parking, because at the moment we're talking about maybe an empty estate with no children, but as the children grow up and have cars, we're going to get more than 2. So it's an ongoing situation with transport that I've seen on my own estate. is there anywhere that can go for lay-bys and things? You've already put some in. Is there any spare corner that can be used?
We have installed, as I said, over 160 visitor spaces to kind of account for that scenario. As part of the application, we produced a heat map that showed kind of the higher impact areas that the county highways wanted to see. And as part of that, we were able to include either additional spaces to dwellings or additional visitor spaces to try and alleviate any problems there. We've been able to, we've undertaken extensive tracking of the development to ensure that even if there were a number of vehicles parked within the highway, that there is still mobility through the development for motorists and pedestrians. And as well as that, we have also worked with the county highways to agree to locations of traffic managed areas, so yellow lines to stop people from parking in certain areas and causing any additional traffic problems.
Amy, any further questions? No one's indicated. Thank you very much, Amy. Members have any questions of the officer? Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you, Chair. May have missed it in the report. I couldn't see any mention of biodiversity net gain, whether there was some and whether that was going to be provided on site or off site. Can you just elaborate on biodiversity net gain in the application, please?
Yes, this is a reserve matters application. As a consequence, mandatory BNG isn't a requirement. What we have done though, if I refer you through to Ecology and BNG section 8 of the report, the SUE does have a wider green infrastructure strategy. Whilst BNG cannot be applied to this development, the applicant has been requested to provide native species and a sufficient variety to provide biodiversity in order to comply with Mansfield Zone SPD. The council's ecologist has commented there is very little limited opportunities for enhancing the ecological value of the site. But that is accepted, and obviously the green infrastructure plan, which is across the entire SUE, will deliver a reasonable chunk of BNG by default.
Any other questions? Officer, Councillor Tempest Mitchell.
Karen, can you just clarify in relation to the leap and the trim trails? Were they on the plan? Were they not on the plan?
That was an error on my part. I imported a condition inadvertently. The trim trail and the leap, as you'll appreciate from the discussions about 18 months ago with the residents, were provided on the western area, so phase 1, those are in place.
$400 odd houses, no player.
There is no requirement as far as I can ascertain. Claire obviously has a lot of background, going back much further than my involvement with the SUE, but certainly a thorough trawl through the requirements in terms of section 106 and the outline consent didn't specify those facilities to be provided within specific phases. So we're dependent on the master plan. I believe those were embedded. That was embedded in terms of installing those within the green infrastructure areas on the phase 1 development, which I appreciate is on the the side of Adams Way.
Just to come in there, Karen's right. So this site has obviously developed and evolved over a long period of time. And remember at the very beginning, the green infrastructure tended to go into a west-east corridor, and that was changed through the condition discharge applications with the master plan, which then saw it going more south in terms of green infrastructure. So if you recall on phase one, you've got the south, two strips of the green infrastructure there. If you look at the master plan, the approved master plan now, there's very limited green infrastructure required in phase two residential plots. And I think the reason for this is that it needs to be seen as a whole SUE. So if you recall, you had the community plot part of it, which was to the south, but unfortunately the outline's expired now. So that isn't going to come forward as part of the original outline application. However, we would hope that we would try and get something if another application comes forward, that, we have some more space to compensate for that, because it was quite an integral part of the overall development. But Karen's right, I've had a look as well and refreshed myself, but I can't see any requirement on this phase for there to be any form of open space, which then in turn obviously to a dense form of development. It was always envisaged that phase two would be more dense than phase one, coming towards the local centre. The existing development.
Any further questions? Councillor Answer.
Thank you, Chairman. Within your report, you mentioned about properties having brick cladding. Thought they were built with brick.
Councillor, yes, I think perhaps that was a comma left off there. They are, as far as I'm aware, we have brick built dwellings, and the majority of those are brick built. There are rendered properties, and there are some which are part rendered, part brick. But unless Amy says otherwise, and she's shaking her head, so no, we have brick built dwellings.
Any further questions? No? Case, do I have a proposer? Councillor Hammersley, a seconder, Councillor Stevenson. Anyone wish to say debate? Comments? Councillor Tempest Mitchell.
I think it's fantastic because we need lots of houses, and a lot of them are affordable, or named for them. Whether they are or not is a different matter. The prior experience on the other side, on Lindisway West, there's 4 different developers, one of them being Bellway. I have some reservations about different things, and I think I've asked questions in relation to that. One question I haven't asked is who will be responsible for finishing off of the roads, the topping off of the main road, and the pavements and roads and paths, fencing, gateways through that fencing, etc. Some people have been on the estate at the top, including the Bellway estate, nearly 5 years, certainly 3 or 4. But that's only just probably October-ish finished with paths off of the roads, but paths, fences, gates through those fences. Some people waited 2 or 3 years for pavements, roads on their little offshoots, little cul-de-sacs. I'm not sure if there are any conditions in relation to timings of topping off of those roads and pavements. I would wish that there were. Some people literally had no pavements and no roads for more than 18 months, 2 years. That's my main reservation in relation to how the residents on the top were treated even though the houses weren't finished and the people were in lots and lots of infrastructure that was just ignored for a long time. Some of it still is, little things still are. So I think, finish off really quick, Chair, so apologies. But the residents, particularly on the Bellway estate, would be keen to know that new residents, this new estate, which is all Bellway, aren't treated the way that they were. Paths, pavements, roads, etc. would be finished off correctly, launched, as some of it was, and that promises were kept, not ignored for 2 months, 2 to 3 years.
Any other comments? No? I think on what you've just been talking about, there were concerns. Obviously, the estate includes quite a few link roads, private driveways that wouldn't be up to adoption standard. They don't need to be, but there's been a lot of discussion with the relevant highways officers to try and ensure that these surfaces are going to be up to the standard. Obviously, you've got bin wagons and things like that that need to have access, and you don't want roads falling to bits in the short term, at least. So I think it's something that officers have had concerns about and tried to address throughout the dealings. It has taken quite a few years for this to come to planning committee. I think that it's finding a balance. The officers are fairly satisfied that what's going to come forward is a good thing for the area of Mansfield, and yeah, we are looking to deliver a large number of homes, so just worth making that comment. See, from what you were saying, you'd have liked to have asked questions, really. Okay, any other comment before we go to a vote then? Can I have a vote, please? Show of hands, all those in favour, granting permission. Anyone against? Any abstentions? No? Thank you very much. That's a unanimous decision. So, read it out again. An application 2021-0489 reserved application for reserved matters approval for the development of phase 2, plots 9A, 9B, 10 and 12A to deliver 484 in number dwellings, rising appearance, landscaping, layout and scale on planning application 2010-089/ST outline planning application, including the reserved matters of access, the development of 169.3 hectares of land for employment, commercial, residential, retail, healthcare, community, educational and leisure uses, including the provision of a new primary school, local centre, community park, landscaping, habitat creation, infrastructure including roads, drainage and services. Phase 2, plots 9A, 9B, 10, 12A, Linda's Development Land, Mansfield. Granted planning approval for reserved matters subject to conditions. Mouthful that was. Move on to the agenda item 6, which is planning application reference 2024-0254 full erection of a 2-storey 66 number bedroom care home including dementia care for the elderly, use class C2 with associated access, car parking, landscaping and ancillary buildings. Plot 4, Lyndhurst land between the A6117 and the A617 Berry Hill, Mansfield. Like the officers to make the report, please.
This application relates to the plot which sits next door to the Bellway site that you've just determined. Plot 4 was before you in November 2024 in relation to local centre. This plot is designated the local centre plot for the SUE. At the time, you determined the applications for shops, takeaway, cafes, and drive-through, medical centre, children's day nursery, and a vet. You were advised that there was another area within plot 4 which related to a 66-bed care home, including dementia care. This is the application which will now complete the developments on plot 4. There are no updates to the application, therefore I'll briefly take you through the details and the planning arguments. The application is a full application for a 66-bed care home, including dementia care, in a purpose-designed 2-storey 8-shaped building fronting Lyndhurst Way East, served from the internal road into the local centre. The internal areas of the H provide outdoor amenity space for residents, and this extends around the building to provide a landscaped amenity area which sits behind railings and will be for use of all the residents. Beyond the perimeter railings, the site slopes down to the local centre internal road and cycleway and Lyndhurst Way East, Vine Road to the SUE. These areas are proposed, landscaped and tree planted. Building measures 155.13 metres by 143.25 metres in a combination of brick and cladding with flat roof arrangement which will accommodate solar panels across the whole of the surface. Building set back from Lyndhurst Way East and elevated by just under 2 metres, although this reduces towards the junction with the internal road to the local centre. Dedicated bin storage area, PV battery storage housing building are also proposed, together with meter housing and garden store. The development joins the approved day nursery to the southeast and residential development to the east. To the west of the site is the shared internal road into the local centre. The front of the building faces the local centre internal road, retail unit, medical centre and vet. There is an active frontage on all sides, so the face to Lyndhurst Way East doesn't have an entrance point, but it is vibrant, includes a lot of detailing in terms of windows, in terms of cladding and brick arrangement, and is what would constitute an active frontage. The development is provided with its own internal parking spaces, total of 27, including 2 disabled spaces, 6 EV charging points, a motorcycle space and a separate cycle store. Parking area is laid out to enable long wheelbase vehicles, bin lorries, delivery vans and other service vehicles. They all can operate within that site area. It proposes electricity generation and heating using roof installed solar panels and a ground source heating system with a backup support via battery storage, which is the battery storage building. Internally, it's laid over 2 floors, laid out in 4 wings, with each room with an ensuite. Each floor has assisted bathrooms, lifts and lounge dining area. Ground floor also accommodates a reception area, kitchen, salon and cinema room. Care home will provide elderly persons care with an element of dementia care beds. In terms of the principle of development, the adopted Mansfield local plan allocates the local centre plot for retail and community uses. There's a C2 residential institutional use. This isn't fully compliant with the allocation. Policy H6, however, supports specialist housing within Class C2. States where it is conveniently located in relation to local retail, community services and public transport in existing and proposed residential areas. In this respect, the proposal accords with the policy. Adult Social Care have commented that they do not support the application, commenting Mansfield has a surplus of care home placements and residents will be somewhat isolated from the local community. It's acknowledged that the development will be one of the first developments on phase 2, Lyndhurst. This will be rectified obviously as the housing development comes forward, and the community will thereby be established in relation to the east side. The west side is obviously well established by now and residents have been there for a little while. It is also a consideration in respect to the comments from Adult Social Care that Plesley Hill Farm, another SUE, includes a care home in the description of development. So in terms of this application, we're not talking about something unusual. We've already agreed a care home within the outline consent for Plesley Hill. The scheme itself is 66 bed, which is a reasonable size unit. It sits within quite a small area of the local centre. As a consequence, although we have a tension with the policy and the allocation of this particular plot for the local centre, it's not considered to impact detrimentally to it. We have the facilities already secured under the consents from November, and this infills a corner. As a consequence, it's considered that it's acceptable and policy compliant in terms of specialist residential accommodation. It's something that's seen on a lot of local centres and allows a synergy. One of the potential benefits of locating this sort of facility in the local centre is residents can look out of their window and see activity. We have a daycare centre next to it, a children's day centre, nursery next to it, and shops opposite. There's also the potential for combined visits in that residents may have grandchildren at the nursery. They may have families who will be living on the estate or already living on the estate, will be dropping into the local centre for their convenience goods whilst visiting relative in the care centre. So it's considered that there is a synergy and a interrelationship that could be is beneficial in this case. Section 106 obligations attached to this application as a full application. Those cover healthcare, contribution towards the Toucan crossing on Adams Way, which for the members who were at the November committee will be aware that we had a contribution agreed for part of the local centre. For other members who weren't at that committee, Adams Way is obviously the crossing point between the east and west Lyndhurst SUE. There is a low-level dropped curb arrangement across the roundabout at the moment. Through discussions on the local centre, we have agreed improvement to that by way of a signalised controlled crossing. That will come forward in due course, but to start up the funding for that, we've agreed funding from both the local centre developers and from the care home developers. That will be the first contribution towards achieving that signalised crossing. It's considered that there is no objection in principle to this development. In terms of appearance and impact on the character of the area, the building proposes active frontage and will be in a key position close to the entrance to phase 2 Lyndhurst. Although a mix of brick facings and cladding, the overall appearance is one of a residential block, pretty much like an apartment block, which is considered acceptable and suitable. Conditions, though, are proposed to require details of the colour and type of the brick facings to be submitted. There is a commitment by the applicant to sustainable energy generation, and this will be the first development where we have an offer embedded within the application for solar panels and ground source heat pump, backed up with battery storage. I think the applicant agent may be able to give you a little bit more information on that, but that pretty much should provide a significant amount of the electricity and the heating for the development, so it will be self-supporting. Highways matters are addressed comprehensively, taking into account the highways matters discussed in relation to the local centre application. It was considered imperative that we ensure that the requirements in relation to the local centre in terms of highway improvement, which include improving the footway on the new spine road, Lyntes Way East, are embedded as far as we can within this application. What will happen in terms of local centre is there is an agreement to forfeit some of plot 4, the area straddling the spine road, to enable the pavement to be widened to be able to be a cycleway and pavement. So that creates a 3-metre wide strip. Now that meets criteria in terms of active travel, a government-led strategy, and also in terms of our own commitment through our local plan policy to improving various modes of travel to site. As we can't guarantee that the local shovels in the ground, we are replicating a number of those conditions relating to the highways matters within this application. So what we have is a duplication in a number of respects between the two. It's likely that the developments will take place concurrently, but we've given ourselves a fallback position so that we can secure in the event that they don't. We don't have one developer coming forward carrying all the requirements while the other developer, the care home, which is a smaller part of the site, doesn't take that responsibility. So it's a shared responsibility largely between the local centre developer and the care home. In addition to the reference to the contribution for the Adams Way crossing, there is a contribution required to the Integrated Care Board. There is a deficiency in parking provision against the Nottinghamshire parking standards by 19 spaces within this site. Whilst the overspill parking could be accommodated within the local centre, it's the recommendation of the Highway Authority to impose a monitoring condition to bring forward parking restrictions on adjacent roads and Lyntes Way East should they be required. Now this was also attached with the local centre application. On a final matter, the development is subject to mandatory BNG requirements. The scheme has been designed in relation to the landscaping of the development to integrate BNG in accordance with local plan policy and E2. Finally, as a full application, it's not captured by the planning conditions on the outline consent 2010 0089 ST. But as it forms an integral part of the sustainable urban extension, it is affected and it is impacted upon in relation to those conditions. As a consequence, the rather lengthy planning decision recommendation include a number of those elements which would have been secured through the outline consent. So as a consequence, we don't prejudice the outline consent, nor do we prejudice the expectations for the delivery of the SUE under the original outline consent. So they're effectively a duplication to ensure that we have consistency and the standard is maintained. In terms of the obligations, financial contribution of 50,000 towards the traffic signalised crossing on Adams Way, travel plan review and monitoring fee of 7,500, legal maintenance easement requirement along the northern boundary to enable the cycle route improvement, 28,050 towards the integrated care board, and BNG monitoring of 2,362, 64 pence for a 30-year monitoring. On that basis, the scheme's recommended for approval.
Thank you for your report. We do have a speaker on this application. So could I invite Tracy Spencer to the podium? When you're ready, Tracy, if you just turn your mic on, you've got 4 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Tracy Spencer. I'm the Senior Planning Manager for L&T Care Developments. The Planning Officer's report and presentation has covered in detail all the aspects of the planning application. It's been demonstrated that the care home is policy compliant and located within an acceptable location within the sustainable urban extension and the local centre. There are no highway objections to the scheme, and the proposed development has been considered acceptable by all other consultees. I'd like to focus my 4 minutes around the comments made by Adult Social Care, just to provide some background to the company and the care that we provide. It's difficult to know what to focus your attentions on in 4 minutes, so I'm opting for this. Adult Social Care have said they are not supporting the application. They've identified a shortfall of nursing care, and the County Council aims to support people to live in their own homes as long as possible. They're looking to promote additional nursing complex care provision, more central to Mansfield, where they see the demand is the greatest. So in summary, their comments, to summarise their comments, they don't support the type of care proposed and its location. They consider the location to be isolated from the local community. At the time of making their comments, it appears they didn't have the full understanding of the amount of development already carried out and the scale of the development to come. The care home would form part of an expanding community within an urban extension. The location would not be isolated from the wider community. It would be quite the opposite. Staff and residents within the home generally come from a 3 to 5 mile radius, which helps establish a community feel and maintain local connections. The home would become an integral part of the growing community, especially in line with the approval that's just come before this application for all the new residential dwellings surrounding the site. The proposed home will provide residential, dementia and respite care. L&T Care Developments are the leading specialist care home developer, develop, construct and operate the homes ourselves. L&T Care Development have a care model specifically designed around giving the best quality of care within the best environments for those residents requiring residential dementia care. We pride ourselves in providing a home for residents with resident-centred care. Our homes have been designed and evolved over the past 30 years to ensure each resident experiences the best level of care. The company's innovation and investment has allowed the company to progress the care home designs and guarantee delivery of care homes fit for the future with individual bedrooms and private ensuite wet room facilities. While our buildings are capable of being registered to deliver nursing care, we prefer to focus on our core strengths, which is providing residential and dementia care. Complexities of providing nursing care distract from the homely environment we create within our homes. Such shortage of nursing care is a nationwide issue which needs to be addressed and is difficult to resolve. Most local authorities are experiencing a shortage of nursing and complex care provision. This is a wider issue for resolution, not for consideration within this application. With regards to domiciliary care, supporting people to stay in their own homes is seen by most local authorities as the most desirable option. When asked,
30 seconds.
oh dear. Right, well, when asked, most people will want to stay in their own home as long as possible, but it does reach a stage when this is no longer an option. having a carer visit 2 or 3 times a day can be the only visit some people have, which leads to isolation, loneliness, and can be unsafe, especially for those suffering from dementia. Taking the step to move into a care home at the right
Time.
didn't time that very well. Sorry.
It's all right. Thank you, Tracy. Do
Open to
do
questions.
members have any questions for Tracy? Councillor Cox said.
Do offer respite care for a lot. It's generally people that have come from a hospital stay that need that respite. And we have found recently that quite a lot of, we have had feedback in from especially some of our new homes that have been built, that people have come for respite and have then wanted to come back and stay. We've had a recent visitor that's now one of our residents. It is a lonely factor sometimes, especially when you've been in an environment that is catered for helping, especially those with dementia.
Tempest Mitchell.
Thank you for your presentation, Tracy. I thought it was fantastic. Focused on the residents and the building stuffs that were really here to tide, really. I've just got one question. Why did you choose that place? Why did the company choose that place and Mansfield? No.
We operate nationwide, and we look for plots like this that are in growing communities because it helps for staff in the homes. And we find we're a Yorkshire-based company, so we find that building communities helps the home to flourish and helps the residents to flourish. So we choose locations like this that are growing but are already in an established community, so it helps on a lot of aspects. So and we look for plots that have the facilities around which this will, once fully developed, will have the facilities, everything. I mean, this for us is quite a perfect plot. So due to the surrounding development. But yeah, we do look for things like this that we can be part of the community, because we are very community focused. We find that helps to have happy residents and happy staff that if we're in an area like this. That answers your question.
Any further questions? No. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you for your presentation. If you just turn your mic off, yeah. The members have any questions of the officer? No. I have a proposer, Councillor Hammersley, Councillor Tempest Mitchell. Any comments while we're in debate mode? No one wishing to comment? It looks an excellent development. Pleased that the company are looking for sites like this in Mansfield. Can we go for the vote then, please? A show of hands, all those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you. That's a unanimous decision then. So planning application reference 2024-02544, erection of a 2-storey 66 number bedroom care home, including dementia care, the elderly, use class C2, with associated access, car parking, landscaping and ancillary buildings, plot 4, Lyndhurst Land, between the A6117 and the A617 Berry Hill Mansfield has been granted planning commission with conditions. And subject to the 106 agreement. I'll move on to agenda item 7, which is the planning application reference 2024-0393 COU, change of use of an existing retail unit, Class E, mixed use development containing retail use at ground floor, 2 number retail units, office space to the first floor, light industrial to the second floor, Class E, storage units on the first and third floor, Class B8, 32, 34, 36A, 36B, Westgate, and like the office to make the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. The proposal site is located at 32, 34, 36 and 36B Westgate, Mansfield. Proposal is about a change of use of existing retail unit Class E to form a mixed use development, retaining the retail use at ground floor to form 2 number retail units, office space to the first floor, light industrial to the second floor, Class E and storage units. The application has been referred to the planning committee as it is a major application. The application site comprises of the former BHS building, a 2-story stone faced building when built on Westgate. The application site slopes up from south Westgate to north rear Columbus Street. The building offers a further story towards its rear portion. There are 2 number of modern shop fronts on the front elevation of the building. The application site features a parking space to the southern east side of the building and an existing service yard to the rear of the building, which also offers some parking both access from the rear of Columbus Street. Part of the building is located within the Westgate Conservation Area in a non-designated local heritage asset. The application building adjoins a Grade 2 listed building numbers 36, 38 and 38. The applicant is seeking the permission to change the use of the building from an existing retail unit which was under Class E to form a mixed use development, retaining the retail use at ground floor to form 2 number retail units, as I mentioned before, an office space to the first floor, light industrial to the second floor, which would fall under Class E, and storage units on the first floor and third floors, which would fall under Class Use B8. The proposed external alterations would be to lower the existing window sill and install a new window on the northeast side elevation, as well as altering the access into numbers 32 and 34. During the course of the application, amended plans have been submitted to remove a number of new adverts from the proposed drawing. This is due to the display of advertisements being subject to a separate consent process within the planning system and cannot be dealt with under this change of use. Consulting comments, alterations of the main entrance onto Westgate and to window would not be considered an impact to any greater extent than already existing. Proposal doesn't entail an of adverts, and proposed adverts to northeast, southeast and northwest elevations will be removed. There's a comment from conservation officer, and then those amendments have been submitted house. And there is no objections from the highways. It will have very little impact on the existing highway network. Suggested a condition be attached for vehicular and cycle parking, turning and servicing areas be provided to first use. No objection from Environment Health District England, Environment Agency and DC enterprise and investment regeneration. And from the planning policy, there is no objection to the principle of the proposed use, but raised concerns. The proposed Edwards holdings on Columbus Street. Our neighbor comments, we received one comment from a neighbor. Basically, it's about wheelchair access where the ramp is. This is the reception entirely and would allow free access into lift lobby. And other comment it says would be useful to have a statement and plan setting out an entrance and exit strategy and a plan for the means of escape strategy. Give the comfort that there is a rational strategy behind the proposal. As it stands, it hasn't been thought about or doesn't work. It's a comment received from the neighbors. In the principle of development policy S2 of the adapted local plan 20 sets of the spatial strategy for the district. The application site is located within the Mansfield Town Centre primary shopping area identified by policy RT3 and forms part of the primary frontage of the primary shopping area. As the proposal relates to a change of use, with the only external alterations being a new window, the proposal wouldn't be a redevelopment scheme and would therefore fail to meet all except one of the key objectives set out in the plan, which derived from the town center master plan, hence also failing to comply with some of the site-specific rules. There are areas where it appears compliant. It retains the important first floor facade, a non-designated heritage asset within the building. It provides active edge to west gate. Also, it introduces a variety of uses. It is acknowledged that alterations are proposed to the existing shop front, but they are not traditional design and painted timber construction. However, given the nature and scale of the alterations, it is considered that such requirements would be inappropriate for this building in this instance. A design code compliance checklist was written. The proposal wouldn't comply with town rule T11 and would only partially comply with the site specific rules as explained above. So town rule T11 trees and soft landscape states that all new developments of the town center must include tree planting. However, given the nature of the proposal, which is for a change of use, it is accepted that new tree planting cannot be provided within the proposal. As the existing retail units at ground floor level would be retained, it is considered that proposal would comply with policy RT3, which focuses on the use along the primary shopping area, along the frontage at ground floor level. It should be noted that policy RT3 refers to use class A, which has now been incorporated into the new class C to elaborate flexibility to best support the high streets and town centers. It is considered that any harm would be brought by the loss of class E spaces within the application site and failure to meet the full aspirations of the design code and a master plan would be outweighed by benefits of bringing a vacant building located within the primary frontage of the Mansfield Town Centre primary shopping area and offering a combination of storage units, light industrial and office spaces with retail units at ground floor level. And as the existing retail units at ground floor level would be retained, it is considered that the proposal would comply with policy RT3 as it focuses on the use along the primary shopping area, along the frontage, ground floor level. It should be noted that RT3 refers to class A, which has now been separated into class E before. As such, it is considered the principle of the change of use of the site from class E to a mixed use development, retaining the retail use at ground floor to form 2-number retail units, office space to the first floor, light industrial to the second floor, classes and storage units on the first and third floors is acceptable, subject to other material considerations otherwise. And in terms of visual amenity, the proposal relates to a non-designated local heritage asset along within a conservation area. Then and the conservation officer has considered that the proposed alterations to the front entrance doors on the front elevation of property and window on the northeast side elevation would not impact to any greater than greater extent than already existing, and the conservation officer raised concerns in relation to the proposed advertisements. However, the display of advertisement is subject to a separate consent process. Those advertisements have been removed from the drawings and no longer form part of the application. Given the nature, scale, and locations of the proposed external alterations, it is considered that the proposal would not result significant adverse impact to the significance of any heritage assets, the conservation area, or the general character of the area, and would be in compliance with policies HE1 and HE8. P8. In terms of residential amenity, as no adverts are now depicted on the submitted amended plans and that there is no other external lighting proposed within the proposal, it is considered that the condition requiring details of external lighting, including illuminated advertising signs, to be submitted prior to the commencement of the proposal would not be necessary. It is understood that the closest residential properties would be those located on West Hill Drive, which are all no less than 50 meters away from the application site. Given the location of the application site, which is within Mansfield Town Centre in the primary shopping area, and the proposed uses, it is not anticipated that proposal would harm the living condition of any neighboring residents unaccepted. And highway safety, there is no comment. It meets the requirements. And given the retainment of existing car parking spaces and traffic light system, provision of cycle storage facilities, and the location of the application site, which is within the Mansfield Town Centre in the primary shopping area, it is considered that the proposal would not endanger highway safety. And flood risk, it is located within flood risk zone 1, which are areas with the lowest probabilities of flooding, and so no risk of flood. In other matters, the purpose of the application is to determine whether the proposed use of the building, which would fall under mix of Class E and Class P8, would be acceptable. It is considered that the internal access would have a material impact in planning terms on the proposed use. In this instance, given the nature of the proposed use, it is understood that the lifts would be blocked on the ground floor level and they would only be utilized by proposed storage units. So it's likely that these issues would be controlled under building regulations. As such, it is not considered necessary for an entrance and access strategy and a plan for the means of escape strategy to be submitted. So in conclusion, the proposal would retain the retail units at the ground floor level, bring back a vacant building located within the primary frontage of the town center primary shopping area, and of a range of uses. So it's considered that the proposed development is acceptable in principle, and it accords with the aim and purpose of policies RT1 and RT3, with the benefits outweighing the harm. And it will also comply with local plan policies and would not have an adverse impact on the significance of any heritage assets and the conservation area, amenity of the neighbors, and highway safety. Therefore, this application is recommended to grant planning permission. Thank you.
Thank you for that report, Ishmael. We do have a speaker on this report, so could I invite Scott Bracken to the podium, please? If you'd like to turn your speaker on, Scott. Yes. You're ready.
Chair and members of the committee, I speak on behalf of the applicant RG Property in support of the application for a mixed-use development limited external alterations that retains the retail use of ground floor, office space, light industrial, self-storage units on the upper floors. The officer's report is comprehensive and clearly outlines the key planning matters associated with the proposed use. It identifies that no objections have been raised from the council's conservation officer, environmental health, planning policy, ecologist, and Nottingham County Council highways and planning, policy planning and corporate services, including that it is acceptable and in accordance with the adopted Mansfield District Local Plan and National Planning Policy Framework. The building has been vacant since 2023 and is progressing to nearly 2 years being empty. The building is identified as one of the key development sites within Mansfield Town Centre Design Code and designated within the council's primary shopping area and frontage. These proposals will help to deliver a viable mixed use to a currently vacant building, whilst enhancing and providing a range of new uses that are suitable for this town centre location. Ground floor units will be resized to create 2 more evenly sized and viable retail units, whilst the upper floors will be reconfigured for offices, light industrial, self-storage units. The redesign will allow for a more effective use of the upper floors, ensuring they're more attractive and usable spaces. The proposal retains the important first floor facade, non-designated heritage asset within the building, provide an active edge to Westgate and introduce a variety of uses. Fully support the officer's view that the principle of development is acceptable. We agree with the officer's report that the proposal respects the non-designated heritage asset and would not harm the living conditions of any neighbouring residents unacceptably. We have worked positively and proactively with highways to demonstrate vehicles can access and exit and manoeuvre within the site safely. In addition, the existing car parking spaces and traffic light system would be retained and cycle storage facilities provided. Safety of all users of the highway would be protected, and this is accepted within the officer's. All matters such as flooding, biodiversity net gain and internal access have been adequately addressed within the officer's reports are acceptable. These proposals aim to support the growth and improvement of the retail, office, light industrial and self-storage businesses offering within the town centre location. The scheme secures the viable mixed reuse of a vacant property, a prime location not only within the town centre but also within a defined conservation area. Proposals reflect the need of the local plan by bringing about accessible services in accessible locations. It will provide a contribution to build a strong, responsive and competitive economy through construction-related jobs on completion, and making a more effective and efficient use of a large vacant building to support the economic growth within the town centre. The scheme further secures social integration and interaction and respects the non-designated heritage asset, achieving the 3 overarching objectives of sustainable development as detailed within
30 seconds.
Overall, we are in full agreement and support of the officer's report, which is a comprehensive and confirms the documentation provided is conclusive and sufficient to justify granting permission subject to conditions. We therefore respectfully request members to support officer's recommendation. Thank you for all your time.
You, Scott. Members have any questions of the speaker? No? Thank you, Scott. Members have any questions of the officer? Indications? I have a proposer. Councillor Hammersley, Councillor Tempest Mitchell. We have any comment? Councillor Hammersley.
Yeah, this former BHS retail unit has been lying vacant for many years now. It's in a prime position in the town centre. So as the ward councillor for the town centre, I very much welcome this application. It would be great to see it redeveloped as soon as possible. Thank you.
The Cox said.
Yeah, I'd replicate very similar to what Councillor Hammersley said, that It's good to see that we've got a building the size that it is, looking at the interest that we've got, and obviously progressing to it being reopened, which is very, very good and very positive. I'll be supporting this.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Answer?
Good. Thanks, Chairman. I think it'll regenerate Westgate, put it where it should be, an entrance to the town centre with proper businesses there in order for people to come into town and shop.
Any further comments? I move to the vote then by show of hands. All those in favour, please show. Any against? Any abstentions? No, thank you. That is a unanimous vote again. So planning application reference 2024-0393, change of use of the existing retail unit class E to form mixed use development retaining the retail use at ground floor to form 2 number retail units, office space to the first floor, light industrial to the second floor, class E, storage units on the first and third floors, class B8, 32, 34, 36A and 36B Westgate, former British Home Store store, has been granted planning application, planning permission with conditions. Thank you. Echo the comments made by the committee. I think it's a welcome thing for the town centre. Good. Move on to item 8, your agenda, which is the appendices for Human Rights Act use classes. Could I ask that these be noted? Show of hands, please. Thank you. Final item on the agenda, item 9, the planning appeals decision. Again, this is for committee to note the appeals decision set out in the report, but was a little bit puzzled as to why the report doesn't give any explanation as to why the appeal's been approved. It only gives our reasons for refusal at the last when it was turned down. So I'd just like to invite Dan to read out some of the comments to put us in the picture, really. Not the full comments, but some.
Thank you, Chair. Just to go over briefly, just revisit the location of the development, just outline what the key issues are, and then I won't go through the whole appeal decision. It's 13 pages. I think we'll want to go home. So this prior to my arrival, I do remember discussing this when we waiting for the appeal decision. So it's a development for 19 affordable homes on Burns Lane at Warsop Enterprise Centre and 30 Church Street in Warsop. So was refused. Sure what the exact date was, but go to the November 30th of November. So so the inspector, so the appeal was allowed. No costs were awarded, but the appeal was allowed. The planning permission was granted subject to conditions. Main issues the inspector considered were whether the appeal was a suitable location for the development, having regard for the overarching spatial strategy of the development plan, and whether there was a realistic prospect of the appeal site coming forward for its allocated use, which I believe background. Yeah. And then it's whether the proposal would meet an unmet need for affordable housing. So if I won't go through individual issues. I'll just go straight to the conclusion and planning balance. So briefly just summarizes what the conclusion on each of the issues was, and then what the why the appeal was allowed. So basically it would provide 19 affordable homes to a mixture of tenure, adequately secure by planning obligation, and then it would fulfill a persistent shortfall of affordable housing. Although it was noted that we do have a sufficient overall housing land supply, there was still moderate weight afforded to the provision of housing, and particularly the emphasis on affordable housing. So that was afforded moderate weight in favour of the scheme. So there'd be redevelopment of a previously developed site in accordance with paragraph 123 of the NPPF, and it was close to key services within Warsop, so that was also afforded moderate weight, particularly with reduced need to travel. It basically says that there was also an element of because the site was previously developed, it would speed up the overall delivery of the housing on the site, but there was a footpath issue that needs to be determined, but that would there is a minor benefit to the scheme in terms of its ability to be delivered rapidly. It was noted, obviously, that the site was contrary to the site allocation and accounting for the spatial strategy overall, but it was the inspector concluded that the actual probability of that site allocation coming forward was neither realistic or reasonable. So because there wasn't a likelihood for that allocation to come forward, it was concluded that the unmet need of affordable housing and the general benefits of housing more generally, having regard for the overall visions of the development plan, wouldn't fundamentally undermine a plan-led system, and effectively the benefits would outweigh any harm in terms of the policy conflict of that allocation. So like any case, so there's often appeals like this, you get sort of issues, weighing a balance, so issues against and issues in favour. So the inspector came down on the side of affordable housing and housing in general, accounting for the probability of the allocation coming forward. And so the appeal was granted subject to conditions, standard conditions on commencement of details, boundary treatment. So it's fairly generic stuff, really. There's a lot of highways conditions, and obviously the planning obligations to secure, so a legal agreement to secure the affordable housing and contamination. It's quite a lot of conditions, but just going through flood risk, operating hours, EV charging points. That's it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. That makes it a bit clearer. So can I just have a show of hands that be noted then? Yeah. Very much. Thanks for your attendance tonight. I'll close the meeting and safe journey home.